In this set of lecture videos, we're going to be talking about public opinion. And the way that I'm going to be talking about it is probably different than you would get at any other class at College of the Canyons, in part because public opinion was my area of specialty. I taught public opinion at UCLA. And it's also directly connected to the media, which is the next set of lecture videos, and elections, which is the next set of videos. And so all of this was like central to my research and my dissertation. So this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Also, this set of lecture videos is particularly important because when I explain the media and the impact of the media, I'm going to refer back to many of the things that we talk about in this set of lecture videos. One of the arguments that I'm going to be making when I talk about the media is that the media is not nearly as powerful as most people seem to believe it is. Now, you may be one of those people who believes the media is tremendously powerful. Well, then it's going to be up to me to make the argument that perhaps that isn't the case. And at some point at the end of the next set of lecture videos, when we talk about the media, we can have a discussion about this on the discussion board. So with that in mind, let's talk about the learning objectives. After this lecture, you'll be able to explain the difference between opinions and attitudes. It winds up being that distinction is critically important in understanding how political scientists approach public opinion. You'll also be able to explain the way that people answer survey questions according to the memory-based information processing model. Now, I know that sounds complicated, but the memory-based information processing model is actually kind of easy to understand as long as you follow it step by step, but we'll see. Next, you'll be able to describe what's called the RAS model, not the RAS model, the RAS model. This was an idea that was invented or created by a professor who I studied under at UCLA. He's one of the foremost scholars on public opinion, and he makes a very persuasive argument for how public opinion works. Next, we're going to get into some statistics, but don't worry, it's not going to be heavy. We're just going to get into statistics, and I'm going to explain why there's uncertainty in all public opinion polls. And to do that, I'm going to actually talk about making spaghetti and drawing blood, which is unusual. I'm also going to talk about two statistical concepts, the confidence level and the margin of error. In every poll, there's a confidence level and a margin of error, and you have to understand that in order to accurately interpret the results of public opinion polls, which you'll be able to do when this lecture is over. Then also you'll be able to identify two potential sources of uncertainty in public opinion polls, what we call question wording effects and then question order effects. And you'll be able to explain how to remedy each of these potential sources of uncertainty. And so with that in mind, let's begin the lecture on public opinion. As is my custom, you guys are familiar with this now, I'm going to begin by defining public opinion. Following that, I'm going to elaborate on the definition, but in this particular case, the elaboration is going to take quite a while. So with that, let's get started. My definition of public opinion is public opinion is the combined individual opinion shared by some part of society. The combined individual opinions shared by some part of society. So the first thing I need to do in order to break down this definition is make a distinction between attitudes and opinions. Okay, attitudes and opinions. Now, in common vernacular, the way people talk about things, oftentimes people use attitudes and opinions sort of interchangeably. But again, we're doing and talking about political science here and how political science approaches the study of public opinion. And so we have a more specific way of using these terms. Very generally, you can think of an attitude as something that we think, what's in our head, okay? The more specific definition of an attitude is an enduring tendency to think or feel in a positive or negative way towards something. Now, what do I mean by an enduring tendency? If something is enduring, that means it's long-lasting. So attitudes aren't like temporary things that just sort of flash in when you stub your toe on a table and you say, I hate that table. I'm not calling that an opinion, right? That's just a momentary burst of feelings about something that just happened. An attitude is an enduring tendency to think or feel in a positive or negative way about something. And here's the thing about attitudes. Attitudes cannot be observed. You cannot just look at somebody and see their attitudes. If I'm a Democrat or a Republican, or if I'm a liberal or conservative, you can't just look at me and observe whether I'm one or the other. Now, you may have some clues, right? If I have a Make America Great Again hat on, right? Or if I have a Black Lives Matter shirt on, right? Those could give you clues, but those aren't opinions. That's not what's in my head. That's what's out sort of being displayed for the world. That's actually an opinion. An opinion is something that we express. Now, not always with hats, not always with shirts. Sometimes we express things with words. Sometimes we express things by voting. We express things in a variety of different ways. But the thing about opinions is they can be observed. You can see them. But the important thing to remember about opinions is they are oftentimes an imperfect indicator of an unobserved attitude. Now, it takes a little bit of time to unpack what that means. An imperfect indicator of an unobserved attitude. Why are opinions imperfect? Well, because we're focusing on public opinion, we're going to be talking a lot about public opinion polls. Now, it's important to keep in mind that when I'm talking about public opinion polls, I am talking about legitimate, professional, well-done public opinion polls. There are a ton of public opinion polls that are terrible. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the polls that are done by social scientists, political scientists, and others who are truly trying to understand public opinion. So, why are opinions imperfect then? Back to the original question. Because oftentimes the questions that are asked in public opinion polls, they lack nuance. But people don't. The questions sometimes can be very simplified, but people are really complex. So as you can see on the lecture notes, let me give you a dumb example. I used to use this in class all the time. I would pick a student and I would ask them how they feel about dogs, and then I would make up a story about dogs with that person. So imagine, I'll use myself in this case. Imagine when I was 5 years old. This actually happened to my brother. I was going into the backyard of a friend of the family, and a big dog jumped on my shoulders and barked in my face, and didn't bite me, but barked in my face really, really loud, and I fell to the ground crying. Right? It was a traumatic event. And from that point forward, I had a real fear of dogs, right? And especially big dogs, right? So if somebody had said, do you like dogs? I would say, no, I don't. Or, using my dumb example, if somebody said, are you pro-dog or are you anti-dog? I would have said, I'm anti-dog. But the truth is that when I played with toys. I liked playing with fire trucks, and they always had Dalmatians, those black and white spotted dogs, as the dogs that were on fire trucks. I've never actually seen that, but those would be the dogs that would be on the fire trucks, and I liked Dalmatians. And also, I had a sort of not a good feeling about big dogs, but little dogs are kind of cute. And then when little dogs would be put in sweaters, like I thought that was really funny. So that would make me laugh, and I thought they were kind of cute, like they were little dolls. And then do you remember the poster? I don't know if your generation remembers this poster, but there used to be a poster of these dogs sitting around a table playing poker. Well, I had that in my room. And so the thing is that while I had a lot of negative attitudes about dogs as a result of this traumatic experience, I also had some favorable attitudes about dogs. I liked little dogs, especially with sweaters. I liked Dalmatians. I liked that poster. It made me laugh. When the question is asked, are you pro-dog or anti-dog, the attitudes that come to mind were the dog jumping on my face and attacking me, not the other things. And so I would answer, I'm anti-dog, but it was actually way more complicated than that. Way more complicated than that. And so that's my dumb example. In the next video, what I want to do is I want to give you a real example of why a lack of nuance can go ahead and make an opinion, what we express, an imperfect indicator of an unobserved attitude.